Kia ora and welcome to another episode of the Leadership Lounge, a space for healthcare leaders to take a breath, take a pause, to stop, think and reflect, and to get a fresh perspective on your work as a healthcare leader. I'm Katie, I'm your host, and I've got 3 decades of working and leading in healthcare, and I work with leaders and their teams to help them manage the demands and the complexities of their job, and so that you can feel hopeful and excited about the work that you're doing. So this week, I was just reflecting as I was walking around the park, and there's lambs. Springtime here in Aotearoa, and there's lambs, and I caught the scent of the flowers as I was walking along, and the green just looks a little bit different. And there's really reminders everywhere that spring is on the way, and doesn't that feel great? Spring and autumn are probably my 2 favourite seasons, and I think it's because they represent the change. They represent that shift. And so I got to thinking about seasons and how thinking about seasons reflects on leadership, right? Because I don't believe that we can be in full summer all the time. That space of high energy and running around and getting everything done, that kind of that you associate with that summer brightness and energy. We just don't, we can't do that. We can't do that as individuals, and we can't do that as organisations, and we can't do that as teams. So this idea of how do we think about seasons, and it really connects with this idea of change, transition, and growth. So core kind of components that can be made up in your leadership world. And reminding ourselves that there are different times for different things. So it is appropriate that there are times to consolidate and to buckle down, or times to recover and go a bit slower. And there are times of high energy, high demand, high expectation. And these can what's the word I'm after? These can kind of align with whether that be a new job, or a new project, or a new member of the team starting. So there's lots of different ways that you can kind of take this idea of seasons and the different things that seasons bring to you into the world of leadership. So if we were to think of winter, that's really kind of associated with that evaluation or re-evaluation, and taking that time to consider, why are we here? Recommitting, if you like, to who and what you are as a leader. And winter, this time of regeneration and rest. And they're important. It's important that we have those spaces. And the springtime, which is what we're coming into now here, is this idea of opening up and excitement and trying new things and taking on new opportunities or new projects. It's about looking at the potential and the options that are out there. And then summer is that high energy, it's giving our all, it's that maximum activity. And it's also about making sure that you're dedicating that energy and that time to the right things, so that you're focusing on the things that you want to, the things that are going to be having the biggest impact, that connect with the stuff that you thought about in that winter season, which was about who are we, what are we here to do? So there's this connection between the seasons, they're not disconnected. And then the summer obviously moves into autumn, which is this, I think autumn from a leadership kind of picture is around respecting that there are natural dips in energy on a team level, on an organisation, and on for you as an individual, that you can have these natural dips in energy and respecting that. And it's often autumn, that idea of transition, of shifting. And that could be about passing the baton. It could be about wrapping something up and handing it over to somebody, or a shifting in roles or responsibilities. So we can't sit in that eternal summer all the time. There should be these phases and these shifts in our personal leadership, in how we work in a team, and how we work as an organisation. So I guess my question was, I wonder what season it feels like right now for wherever you're at, because that could be different. for every single one of you that's listening. So just thinking about what is the energy, and what are you trying to do, and where are the opportunities to respect and acknowledge the seasons. The other thing I think about when thinking about this idea of that growth and that transition and that change and the idea of seasons is that often as leaders, we can expect, or we want to see, the flowering blooms or the vegetables ripening, whatever that is. My analogy could be getting stretched at this point. But we forget the preparation time. So often if you're thinking about something that needs to be changed or shifted or evolved within a team or within an organisation or within yourself, you've got to start with preparing the soil. And I suppose it's a question when you step into something new, is the soil ready for whatever we're going to be planting? So our first step is always preparing the soil. I'm laughing now internally because when I moved to New Zealand, I started the whole gardening business, so have got a bit more familiar with this idea. But my grandparents were great gardeners, and I used to enjoy spending time with them in the garden, learn a lot from them. And when I garden now, and just thinking of the vegetable patch that I've got that is very weeded and definitely needs some love and attention, and that soil being prepared, I often channel the wisdom of my grandparents when I'm gardening. So I'm just going to bring them into the conversation right now as I'm thinking about what do we need to do to prepare the soil? What are you facing with your team or for you as a leader? Is the soil ready? And then there's that actual planting the seeds. So sometimes you can be giving a message, and then you can be giving a message, and then somebody else comes along and gives the message, and you're like, hold on, I've been saying that for years. Why has no one listened to me? So this idea of the preparation is that it takes a little while for that seed to get hold of, right? And to start growing. So that planting the seed can feel quite a painful part, because we can be batting away trying to get the message across, or trying to achieve a particular task, and then someone just sweeps in and it seems to then just spurt into life, and it's like, hang on, I've been here for ages trying this. It can be really frustrating. So this idea of preparing the soil and then planting the seeds, and that takes some time. But it can be quite a good idea that if you are the first person to be talking about a particular idea or topic, that it's okay not to expect sudden flowers to bloom, and to remind yourself that you're here planting the seeds, and that work is important too. So when the seeds have been planted and there begins to get that growth, it's about looking after that new growth. And you don't want to be smothering it with a whole load of stuff. You don't want to be bombarding with it with a load of information. And I think in this context, I think of when you step into a new role, particularly, I've come from a nursing background, so I'm going to use the charge nurse as an example, but any team leader role, that first step into a leadership role, the amount of things you are supposed to instantly know when you become a leader or a manager is ridiculous. You know, from payroll systems to health and safety stuff, to HR stuff, to recruitment stuff, to just suddenly you're supposed to be the font of all knowledge and know everything instantly. But if you think about the people in those roles as these new seedlings, what do we do to look after them? How do we shelter them from some of the noise and some of the stuff that goes on, and give them the thing that's going to help them grow the strongest and grow the fastest? Give them good foundations. What's going to be that stuff? And if you're in that role, asking yourself that very question. What are the stuff that's going to make me feel securer and stronger and more confident? What's going to give me the space to grow and tackle more bigger challenges and to take on all this information? What do I need? So then we've nurtured our plant. I'm loving where this is going. I did take some rough notes. I didn't think I'd get this carried away, to be quite honest. So now we've got these plants in there, and you're supporting them growing up, and there might be some additional things you need to put in. I was thinking about my tomato plants that I grow, and the stakes that you have to put in and tie them up and keep looking after them. What is the ongoing care that we need to give ourselves and those that we're working with? But also, how do we enjoy that? You know, when the flowers are flowering and the tomatoes are producing beautiful tomatoes, enjoying those things, enjoying the fruits of your labour. And that comes down to a topic that I'll often talk about and mention, this idea of how do we celebrate? How do we find the joy in the stuff that we're doing? How do we notice the good stuff that's going on every day? And then coming to that idea of the seasonality of things is that those things do die. There is that cyclical nature of stuff, and that it's time about, I'm not saying we're all dying here, and that everyone has to then jump and leave and go somewhere else. It's about accepting that things have come to an end. So that might be about a project, or it might be about a skill that you've now learned. It's about, okay, I can now package that bit up and move on to the next thing. But in that space, it is about celebrating, acknowledging the work done, the work achieved. But it's also about saying, is this fit for right now? Has our context changed? Has what I need as a leader changed? Does what my team need changed? What's going on around us that I need to pay attention to that enables us to transition well, and to maybe pack some things up and to go back to preparing the soil again? So there's a lot in there about noticing the environment and about spotting the signs. So, the buds that are starting to just peek through a little bit. It's about looking forward and rising yourself up from being in the weeds or on the dance floor to being able to look a little bit further ahead, to be up on the balcony and see more into the future and kind of go, okay, what is coming up? And in Wayfinding Leadership, the book by Cheryl Spiller, they talk about when you're on the walker and you can feel the currents, you can feel the wind, you can feel the waves. It's about being steady and still and paying attention to what's going on. So where in your day and where in your week or month or in your leadership cycle do you stop and pause and go, okay, what's going on? What are the signs and things that are going on around me? What's the context? What's the environment I'm in? What does that mean for me as a leader? What's shifting for me? And what's shifting for my team, and what needs to be for them and the people that I'm working with? So that there's a time for all of these things to sort of ebb and flow and evolve. And we've gone through that kind of on that sort of the bigger scale. But actually the other thing that it connects with, and I'm reading a book at the moment called The Darkness Manifesto, and I've only just started, and it's really cool. It's about light pollution in its essence, and how much there is, and the impact that it's having on the natural world and onto the human race. But in one chapter they're talking about the discovery of circadian rhythms in us as human beings, and our natural flow and our alignment to light and dark. So this also connects, it's taken that idea of seasonality and the shift in the evolution into a day-to-day basis. And I think this is, you can get really practical in this space, because actually you've got the terms night owl, or what's the morning one? Morning lark or something, isn't it? So, are you most energized, or your brain's most switched on in the morning, or are you more in the evening, or is it afternoon? So we've all got these natural sort of different spaces of where we're most energized or most suited to doing particular types of work. So from a real practical point of view, you can notice over the day, okay, I really struggle to concentrate on doing focused work at that time of day. Maybe it would be the afternoon or the morning. I'm much better doing X. I'm much better doing all the connecting stuff with people at that time of day rather than the focused concentrating work. So as a leader, there's a space, or as anyone, there's a space to be able to go, okay, when are my most opportune moments for doing the particular type of work that I need to do? And I'll admit, it can be hard to fit that in around some of the expectations, the meetings that you have to go to. But I do like to challenge everyone and kind of go, yeah, really? Is there not a possibility of shifting some things? Where can you do that? What is the challenge? Because if you're trying to do something, say, write something or read something that you have to concentrate on, and you're fighting against when you are naturally most suited to do it, it's going to take you half as long. That's not right. It's going to take you twice as long it's not going to be as enjoyable. You're not going to get as much from it, and it's just going to be harder and not produce the best outcome. Whereas if you can shift your day around and you can challenge yourself to go, okay, what would it take to do that? What would that look like? Then it's going to be easier. You're going to get more out of it. It's going to be done quicker, and you're actually going to be more efficient. So most people I'm working with are saying there is just and I'm not disagreeing here, there is way too much work for the time that they've got. So it is about getting smart with where your energy is at to make the most of that time. Because the work ain't going anywhere, and we aren't suddenly going to increase the number of hours in the day. So if there's a piece of work that would, in your high energy space where it's most suited, would only take you 40 minutes, but another time of day would take you 2.5 hours, it's kind of a no-brainer to shift that because you've just gained some time there. So my challenge is this week, and I don't think I've ever done a challenge before. Here you go, your first challenge from the Leadership Lounge. Notice where your energy goes through the day. Notice when you are most suited to that focused, concentrating piece of work. Or notice when you are most in the reflective space or the planning time. Notice when maybe that connecting space and the energy and the extroversion element of you comes out most in the fore. When's that best at play? And see how much you can add in those elements. I'm not saying you can readjust your entire day's schedule or week's schedule, but there'll be moments. Challenge yourself. There'll be some moments. Okay. I'm so glad that the walk around the park sparked so many different ideas for me, and I think it connects equally with that new life and all that energy that we're starting to see coming out from that spring space that we're in. So we've thought about the natural world of change and evolution and how we can relate some elements of seasonality to different components of our leadership, but also our team evolution or our organizational kind of thinking space or working space, depending on the different seasons, and that we can't be in high summer, high energy all the time. That it's okay to have these natural dips, and it's about learning to understand them and making the most of those things. And also that idea of gardening and how there needs to be that evolution in that you need to start preparing the soil, and then we need to look after things as they start to grow. And then there still needs to be different support structures as plants grow or change and evolve. And then we are to celebrate and enjoy what is produced in that space. But with most things, it's time to adapt and change again, to celebrate, to acknowledge something that has been achieved or done, and then go, okay, and what next? Where's the planning? And that means paying attention to the environment, lifting yourself up and looking ahead, noticing. And that can require you to just calm, be still, pay attention, be present. And being present enables that noticing of your own energy. Where does it ebb and flow during the day? When are the times that you are most suited for particular types of work versus some other types of work? And by doing that, you'll get the most out of your day and support yourself to be the most efficient and productive you can be. There we go. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of The Leadership Lounge. I have failed to do all those things that they tell you to do in podcasts, like drop hints to my website or my weekly newsletter to sign up for, which you can do at www.katiequinney.com/subscribe, and I will pop the links in the show notes. And there's a couple of links to a couple of articles that I did just peruse a little bit that just gave me some interesting insights. And the books that I mentioned as I've been going through as well, I'll put those all into the show notes. So thank you again. Have a think about what season it feels like right now for you and what's going on and what you need to do to prepare for the next season. Maybe it's about stepping up, being up on the balcony and looking forward a little bit, noticing the context or the environment. Or maybe for you, it's about noticing your own energy and how it ebbs and flows during the day and where you can get the most out of your day. It's been a delight talking to you again, and I will see you next week for another episode of The Leadership Lounge. Take care.